Sweaty socks. You peel them off after a long day, and the smell hits you like a physical wall. You think it is just stale sweat. It isn't. Your feet have 250,000 sweat glands pumping out half a pint of moisture every single day. But that sweat is completely odorless until it meets Brevibacterium, a microscopic organism thriving in the dark, damp sauna of your shoes. These bacteria feast on your dead skin cells and excrete a sulfurous waste product called isovaleric acid. Here is the unsettling part. Cheesemakers use that exact same bacteria strain to ripen Limburger cheese. You didn't just have a sweaty day, you inadvertently walked around fermenting dairy in your footwear. The wet kitchen sponge. You go to wipe down the kitchen counter, squeeze the sponge, and your hand instantly smells like a swamp. We treat sponges like cleaning tools. Biologically speaking, they are the exact opposite. A standard-used kitchen sponge holds roughly 54 billion bacteria per cubic centimeter. That makes it measurably dirtier than your toilet bowl. Because it stays constantly wet and packed with trapped food fat, it becomes a 5-star resort for Moraxella and Pseudomonas bacteria. When you wipe your table with a smelly sponge, you aren't cleaning. You are actively painting your surfaces with an invisible, concentrated bacterial bioweapon. The old gym bag. You forgot to unpack your workout clothes on Friday. By Monday morning, unzipping that bag feels like opening a biological tomb. Why does trapped gym gear smell so much worse than dirty clothes in a laundry basket? It comes down to airflow and synthetic fabrics. Most modern athletic wear is made of polyester, which actively traps oil and repels water. When you zip that damp synthetic gear into a dark, airless bag, you create an anaerobic chamber. Without oxygen, specialized bacteria thrive, breaking down the proteins in your sweat into thiol alcohols, the exact same chemical family responsible for the smell of skunk spray and raw onions. You didn't just leave your gym clothes in a bag. You built a pressurized sulfur incubator. Spoiled milk. One sniff from the carton, and your body physically recoils. Your head jerks back. Your stomach flips. That violent reaction is your brain taking over your motor controls to save your life. When milk sits around, harmless bacteria ferment the milk sugar, lactose into lactic acid, and a chemical called butyric acid. Why does butyric acid trigger an instant involuntary gag reflex? Because that exact same chemical compound is the primary odor signature of human vomit and decaying digestive fluids. Your evolutionary software doesn't care if it's dairy. Your nose registers the smell of stomach acid, classifies it as a severe poisoning hazard, and forces you to drop the carton. The dirty public restroom. You walk into a gas station bathroom, and the sharp sting of stale ammonia hits your eyes before you even reach the sink. Ammonia is the chemical byproduct of urea breaking down over time. But the real science here isn't the smell. It is what happens to your brain 3 minutes later. If you stay inside long enough, the terrible smell magically seems to fade. The room didn't get cleaner. You experienced olfactory adaptation. Your brain realizes the ammonia isn't actively killing you, so it intentionally deletes the sensory input to free up neurological bandwidth for new incoming threats. The guy standing next to the sink isn't immune to the smell. His brain just quietly muted the alarm bells so he could survive the experience. The hot trash can. It is a 90-degree summer afternoon. You lift the lid of the outdoor garbage bin, and a wave of pure decay washes over you. That smell has a biological name, and it is horrifying. As food scraps break down in intense heat, anaerobic bacteria rapidly multiply and produce 2 specific diamines, putrescine and cadaverine. These are the exact same chemical compounds released by decaying human and animal corpses. Your outdoor trash can is functioning as a rapid decomposition engine. When you hold your breath while throwing out a trash bag, you aren't just reacting to old leftovers. Your brain is reacting to the literal chemical signature of death. Fish left in the fridge. You ordered seafood 3 days ago. You open the refrigerator door, and the entire kitchen smells like a low-tide harbor. Fresh fish actually has almost no smell at all. While alive, ocean fish use a chemical called trimethylamine oxide to balance the saltwater pressure in their cells. The moment the fish dies, bacteria begin converting that odorless compound into pure trimethylamine, or TMA. Human noses are hyper-tuned to detect TMA at minuscule levels, parts per billion. We evolved this extreme sensitivity because eating spoiled marine life was a fast track to fatal neurotoxin poisoning for our ancestors. Your fridge doesn't just need baking soda. It is triggering an ancient biological tripwire designed to keep you from poisoning yourself. The musty old car AC. You turn the ignition on a hot day, crank the air conditioning to blast, and the vents spit out air that smells like a wet basement. Mechanics call this dirty sock syndrome. Your car's AC evaporator core gets ice cold to chill the air, which covers it in condensation. When you shut the engine off, that dark enclosed box trapped behind your dashboard sits soaked in stagnant water. Over time, mold, mildew, and fungi colonize the aluminum fins. When you turn the dial to cool down, you aren't just getting fresh air. You are power spraying aerosolized mold spores and fungal waste directly into your face at 20 miles per hour. The forgotten protein shaker. You find a plastic shaker bottle under your car seat. It has been sitting there in the sun for 2 weeks with an inch of protein shake left at the bottom. You pop the lid and it smells like raw sewage mixed with rotten eggs. Whey and plant proteins are heavily packed with sulfur-containing amino acids, specifically cysteine and methionine. When bacteria break those amino acids down inside a sealed, oxygen-deprived plastic vault, they release pure hydrogen sulfide gas. You didn't just forget a drink. You accidentally constructed a pressurized biological chemical weapon, and because plastic is porous at a microscopic level, that sulfur smell binds permanently to the polymer chains. That bottle is dead. Throw it away. The sweaty armpit. You reach up to grab something from a high shelf, and you catch a sharp, onion-like waft coming from under your own arm. Here's the truth. Your armpits do not produce smelly sweat. You have 2 types of sweat glands. The eccrine glands all over your body pump out salt and water to cool you down. But your armpits are home to apocrine glands, which secrete a thick, milky fluid rich in proteins and lipids, by itself. Completely odorless. But your armpit is also a warm, dark jungle, hosting millions of Staphylococcus hominis bacteria. They eat those odorless proteins and excrete thioalcohols as waste. You aren't smelling yourself. You are smelling the digestive exhaust of millions of microscopic tenants dining on your skin. The silent fart. A loud one is usually harmless. But the silent ones, the ones that sneak out without a sound, they clear the entire room. That isn't a coincidence. It is fluid dynamics and chemistry. Loud farts are usually caused by swallowing atmospheric air, mostly harmless nitrogen and oxygen, which builds up volume and comes out fast and loud. A silent one, however, is almost entirely the metabolic waste of gut bacteria fermenting heavy carbohydrates and proteins. Because there is less trapped air to dilute it, the gas is highly concentrated with hydrogen sulfide and methanethiol. It comes out slowly, warmer than room temperature, allowing the dense, toxic cloud to linger and spread without warning. The acoustics were quiet, but the chemical payload was pure, concentrated sulfur. The forgotten lunchbox. You open a backpack you haven't used since last month and find a sealed Tupperware container holding the ghost of a sandwich. You pry the corner open just a crack, and a sweet, sickly, alcoholic rot escapes. In a closed container, food goes through a miniature terraforming process. First, bacteria consume the easy sugars, depleting all the oxygen. Once the oxygen is gone, anaerobic molds like penicillium and aspergillus take over, fermenting the carbohydrates into alcohols, esters, and sharp organic acids. You are smelling an isolated, multi-generational biological war zone, where molds have completely digested the food and are now releasing chemical defensive weapons to ward off other bacteria. You didn't open a lunchbox. You cracked open a miniature, toxic planet. You didn't imagine any of this. Your nose is an ultra-sensitive chemical scanner, and every single one of these alarms is wired directly into your survival instincts. Which one of these 12 instantly makes you hold your breath? Let me know down in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.